Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The morning light spilled gently through the sheer curtains, painting golden lines across the yoga mat. The soft hum of music filled the room, calm, steady, rhythmic. I was midway through my yoga pose, breathing deep, the air thick with warmth and quiet concentration. My pink tight leggings clung to me, every stretch outlining the rhythm of my body as I tried to hold balance, unaware of the eyes watching me. My husband stood by the door, silent, still, as if caught between admiration and restraint. His gaze followed each slow movement, the rise and fall of my breath, the soft arch of my back as I exhaled. I could feel it without turning, that quiet burn of attention. The kind that speaks louder than words. I tried to stay focused, pretending not to notice him, but my heartbeat betrayed me, fast, uneven, alive. The air suddenly felt heavier, thicker. When I shifted into another pose, my leg lifted high, and a small laugh escaped me, nervous yet teasing. I caught his reflection in the mirror, his jaw tense, his eyes dark with something unspoken. "Are you just going to stand there?" I whispered, half playful, half daring. He took a slow step forward, then another. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath him. My pulse quickened as he came closer, close enough that I could feel his breath ghosting against my neck. For a moment, the world went quiet. No sound. No movement. Only that electric space between us where everything was felt but nothing was said. Then, his hand brushed mine. Just a touch, but it was enough to send a shiver up my spine. My body trembled, caught between calm and chaos. His voice was low, rough around the edges. "You make it impossible to concentrate." I turned, meeting his eyes, that look of both frustration and desire, and before I could say a word, his fingers slid to my waist, steadying me as I nearly lost my balance. The tension snapped like a string pulled too tight. Our eyes locked, breaths mingled, time slowed. Something was about to happen, something inevitable. But just then, the timer chimed, the yoga music shifted, and reality rushed back in. I smiled softly, "Guess the session isn't over yet." He smiled back, but that look in his eyes promised it would be soon. The afternoon felt heavier than usual, the air rich with tension that neither of us dared to name. I had rolled up my yoga mat, thinking the quiet would return to normal, but it didn't. My husband lingered nearby, silent but visibly restless, as if something inside him was fighting to stay calm. He watched me from across the room, his eyes following every movement I made. When I bent to pick up the mat, I could sense his gaze burn into me, strong enough to make my breath catch. I straightened up slowly, meeting his eyes in the reflection of the mirror. That moment stretched, long, loaded, wordless. "What's wrong?" I asked softly, even though I already knew. He looked away, pretending to tidy the corner table. "Nothing," he said. But the tone of his voice betrayed him, low, strained, edged with something fierce. I took a step closer. "You've been quiet all day." He turned then, eyes dark with a mix of irritation and longing. "You don't even realize what you do to me," he murmured. My heart fluttered, unsure whether to be flattered or afraid of where this was leading. I tried to brush it off with a laugh, but it came out nervous. "You're overthinking again," I whispered, though a part of me wanted to hear more, wanted to know what he truly meant. He came closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Maybe," he said, voice softer now, "but when you move like that, I can't think straight. It's like you're daring me." I blinked, unsure whether to step back or stay still. My breath hitched. There it was, the confession neither of us was supposed to make. The forbidden thought finally slipping out into the open. Outside, the wind rattled the window, as if echoing the storm brewing between us. Inside, our silence deepened, filled with things we couldn't say aloud. His fingers brushed against my wrist, gentle but deliberate. The touch was brief, but the electricity it left behind stayed. I looked at him, saw that look, half jealousy, half hunger. The house had grown quieter as the evening settled in, no sounds except the hum of the ceiling fan and the faint rhythm of my heartbeat echoing in my ears. The world outside had dimmed, but inside, the air pulsed with something unsaid, something that had been building since that morning's yoga session. I was in the kitchen, trying to distract myself with small things, wiping the counter, pouring water, pretending nothing had changed. But every movement felt heavy, charged. The air itself seemed to remember every look, every brush of his hand. When I turned around, he was there, leaning against the doorway, his eyes fixed on me in that quiet, unreadable way. There was no reason for him to be there, and yet, there he was. Still avoiding me? He asked, his tone light but layered with something deeper. I tried to smile. You're imagining things. He took a slow step forward. Then another. His presence filled the space before I could move. My pulse quickened, the glass in my hand trembled slightly. Am I? He whispered, his voice barely above a breath. The kitchen light flickered softly above us, throwing golden shadows across his face. I could smell the faint trace of his cologne, familiar and intoxicating. For a heartbeat, I forgot where I was, only aware of how close he had come, how small the space between us had become. I turned to move past him, but his hand brushed mine, stopping me, not forceful, just enough to make me freeze. The touch lingered, deliberate, uncertain. Tell me, he said quietly, why does it feel like you're running away from something that's already yours? The words hit harder than I expected. My throat tightened. My breath caught. His eyes searched mine, and for a second, everything else vanished, the sounds, the walls, the world. Then, suddenly, the faint sound of footsteps upstairs. Someone had come home early. We both froze. The tension snapped, but the fire in his gaze didn't fade. He stepped back, letting me go, but that look said everything he couldn't. The air in the room was thick, so thick it almost vibrated. Every unspoken word, every withheld touch, hung between us like smoke after a fire. The soft ticking of the clock filled the silence, counting down the seconds before everything changed. I stood by the window, arms folded, trying to steady my breathing. The night outside was deep and still, but inside my chest, my heart was pounding like a drum. My husband stood behind me, his reflection faint in the glass, tall, tense, unreadable. Are you going to keep pretending? He asked quietly. His voice startled me. I turned, trying to meet his eyes, but they were already filled with something I hadn't seen before, a storm. Pretending? I repeated, forcing a shaky laugh. About what? He stepped closer, too close. About how you feel, and about what's been happening between us. My throat went dry. You're imagining things again, I whispered, but my voice cracked halfway through. He noticed. His jaw tightened, his gaze unwavering. He took another step forward, his voice low and trembling. Then tell me why your best friend called me today. The room spun for a moment. What? I breathed, my hands trembling. She said she saw your messages. The ones you sent last week. The ones you deleted. My lips parted, but no words came. I could feel the heat rushing to my face, not from guilt, but from the truth I had been burying for weeks. It wasn't what you think, I finally managed. Then what was it? His voice rose slightly, not in anger, but in heartbreak. You think I didn't notice? The late night calls, the way you flinch when I touch you? I've been losing you in pieces. I closed my eyes. You haven't lost me, I whispered, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. I was confused. I just needed to remember what it feels like to be seen. His breath hitched, and for a moment, the fight left his body. He looked at me, really looked, and something in his expression softened. So that's what this was, he murmured. You wanted to be noticed. I nodded weakly. And you just did. For a heartbeat, the space between us felt electric again, raw, real, on the edge of forgiveness or destruction. He reached out, brushing a tear from my cheek. His fingers trembled as they touched my skin, a silent plea for honesty. But just as I thought we'd crossed back into safety, my phone buzzed. A new message. From him. My husband's eyes caught the glow on the screen before I could turn it away. His face changed, disbelief, then fury, then silence. The kind that hurts more than shouting ever could. He stepped back slowly, his voice breaking. So it wasn't over. The night felt endless. The door had slammed hours ago, yet the sound of it still echoed in my mind like a final word I never wanted to hear. The house was silent now, too silent. Only the faint hum of the ceiling fan filled the space where our voices used to be. I stood in the living room, clutching my phone, the unread message still glowing on the screen, a symbol of everything that went wrong. When he left, I thought he wouldn't come back. I thought that was it, the end of us. But love has a strange way of circling back, especially when guilt and longing refuse to die. The front door creaked open just as dawn began to paint the sky. He stepped inside, his face pale, tired, eyes dark with sleeplessness. He didn't speak at first. Neither did I. For a long moment, we just stood there, two broken hearts staring at the pieces we'd both dropped. Was it worth it? He finally asked, his voice trembling but calm. I swallowed hard, my hands shaking. No, I whispered, tears already spilling. It was a mistake. A stupid, selfish mistake. I thought I needed attention, but what I needed was you. He looked away, his jaw tightening, the pain visible even through his silence. Then why didn't you just tell me? I would have given you everything, again and again. I didn't know how, I said softly. I didn't want to sound weak. I wanted you to notice me without me begging for it. The words hung between us, fragile and raw. His eyes glistened, and I could see the storm he was trying to hold back. You broke something in me, he said finally. But the truth is, I still love you, and that's what hurts the most. I stepped forward slowly, each movement heavy with regret. Then let me fix it, I whispered. Let me earn back what I destroyed. He didn't move. For a moment, I thought he would walk away again. But then, something in him cracked. His shoulders slumped, and he exhaled, the sound of surrender. Start with honesty, he said, voice rough. No more secrets. I promise, I breathed. He reached for my hand, hesitant at first, then firm, as if holding on to the last thread that still connected us. The morning light spilled across the floor, bathing us both in a soft gold that felt almost like forgiveness. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fixed. But it was real, and for now, that was enough. Yet deep down, I could sense it, this was only the calm before the next storm. Something told me our story wasn't finished, not yet. The morning sun broke through the clouds like a promise, soft, golden, and forgiving. The air was cool, carrying that quiet calm that comes after a storm. I stood by the balcony, my hair swaying gently in the breeze, lost in thoughts that felt both heavy and light. Behind me, I heard footsteps, slow, familiar. I didn't turn right away, afraid the fragile piece would shatter if I moved too fast. But then, his voice came, low, warm, hesitant. Can we start over? I turned, and there he was, my husband, with tired eyes but a softer expression than I'd seen in days. The kind of look that said he'd fought through his anger and come out the other side, still holding love in his hands. I don't deserve that, I whispered. Maybe not, he said with a faint smile, but neither do I deserve to lose you. Something inside me broke, not from pain this time, but from relief. I walked to him slowly, every step a quiet surrender. When I reached him, he didn't rush. He just stood there, close enough for me to feel the warmth of his breath, the steady beat of his heart. "I missed this," I murmured, my voice trembling. He brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers gentle, reverent. "Then don't run from it again," he said. The way he said it, calm but full of emotion, made my eyes sting. I nodded, unable to speak. He leaned forward then, pressing his forehead to mine. No words, no explanations. Just silence and breath, two souls finding their rhythm again. "I forgive you," he said softly, finally. "But let's not go back to who we were. Let's become something better." I smiled through my tears. Together? Always. The tension melted, leaving only warmth, the kind that fills a home, not just a heart. We stood there for a while, wrapped in the golden light, our hands intertwined like they used to be. The world outside moved on, but for us, time stood still, giving us one last chance to love like we'd never broken. As the camera of life zoomed out, the two of us on that balcony, bathed in sunrise, it wasn't about perfection anymore. It was about forgiveness, second chances, and the quiet power of choosing love again. Because sometimes, the most romantic endings aren't the ones that burn the brightest, they're the ones that simply stay.